Welcome, or welcome back if you came here from one of my previous videos. What I want to go over today is the Viking Air CL-415, the firefighting plane, and some of the issues that people have with the way that it is incredibly overpowered, and they keep getting engine warnings where engine malfunctions happen, they can't scoop properly, can't take off properly from the water. So we're going to address that and kind of look at how this plane functions. Now we picked a position where there's plenty of water nearby, so it's only a short flight to get there, and then we can start working on it. This thing has a ton of flight tags. There's a gear pin. There is a little cover here. There is an engine cover. Let's do a little walk around the airplane and make sure we didn't miss anything before we get this thing off the ground. We can remove the chocks. It looks like there are no other items. Now what you'll see on this plane is these two giant engines. These things are the bane of your existence when flying this airplane. And we'll get to that in a minute as we go through our initial startup here. This one on standby as we get ready. And that's the floodlight. I think usually we set these at around 50. There are some additional instrument lights here. Set these to 50 as well. And cabin lights can stay off, boarding light off, anti-collision lights, navigation lights, anchor lights. Ooh, the fasten seatbelt sign, let's go ahead and turn that on. Landing lights can go on, and taxi light can go on. I think by now. There we go, the engines are going. We're going to go ahead and depart straight out.
Decoy ground, Dips 1-1, IT Papa, Charlie Golf 25 with Zulu. Request taxi for takeoff, straight out departure.
I'm just going to wheel around the gas station. What's the worst that could happen?
Taxi to and hold short of runway 21 using taxiway Alpha. Contact tower on 120.1 tree when ready.
I'm gonna go ahead and head out here.
Taxiing, hold short runway 21 using taxiway Alpha. Dips 1-1, IT Papa, Charlie Golf 25.
I don't think I'll need that much runway.
Decoy tower, Dips 1-1, IT Papa, Charlie Golf 25. Ready for departing straight out at runway 21.
Dips 1-1, IT Papa, Charlie Golf 25. QNH 1011 departing straight out approved. Cleared for takeoff, runway 21.
So one thing to note here while we're waiting for the clearance is that this little console that you see here, I'll go ahead and zoom in on it. This little console has the torque bar. The torque bar is going to be your most important one, and you're going to want to keep that in the green at all times. Right now, you're going to see during takeoff, keep an eye on that. You should be able to see that gauge. Since we're straight out, I'm just going to go ahead and get on onto the taxiway here, onto the runway. And this thing will just roll itself to up to speed. We really don't need that much space to take off. This is, again, like I said, we have the giant oversized engines. So we can go ahead and turn around here, line ourselves up, and just not wait for anyone else's permission, and just go ahead and take off. Now watch that torque bar, the left one on that panel, as it goes all the way into the yellow. We get an insane amount of power because look at that. We are already in the air. We didn't use any flaps, nothing. We just took right off. That is somewhat problematic because that is going to get you engine malfunctions, right? It can't have that much power put out constantly without creating issues. So we're going to go ahead and draw down on the power there. And while we get to the water, to start scooping, you can see that all dials fall back into the green. We are generally in a good spot. The one thing that is still a little bit in the yellow here is the engine oil pressure. So let's see if we can get it just so. It should start dropping soon. But right now we are at about 60% of our RPM and about 40% of our throttle, so really low. And you can see this thing is fine, right? It goes up, it goes down, it's got all the flexibility in the world right now. It's perfectly fine, even with that low of an output. So keep that in mind. Extremely powerful engines, don't go over your torque. Now the next one is scooping water itself, and we're first going to line ourselves up with the water. Ooh, there's a rainbow in the distance. And generally I just drop my throttle down and let the plane take itself down towards the surface. I'm going to go ahead and respond to that one.
Coy Tower, Dibs 1-1, IT Papa, Charlie Golf 25, frequency change.
So while we're hovering over the water, I am currently, all my flaps are up. I'm going a little too fast. And one of the things I want to show you is kind of how awkward it is to land with your flaps up like this. You see the water coming close and we start bouncing. This is a really common issue, and you can put it down if you take out enough speed and do it slowly enough. Like right now, I'm going to go ahead and start filling it. You can see it starting to fill, and that awkward bounce is because we are just not stuck on here, right? I can give it throttle once we're almost full, and you can see how awkward this whole exercise is. And without flaps, what do we see? We see power, but we see zero takeoff. So let's go ahead and bring that back down and slow ourselves down here. If you want to take off from the water, set your flaps down 2 ticks, which I think is 30 degrees-ish. With the flaps down at 30 degrees, let's go ahead and give it another try. Get the engines up to full power. And you can see with the flaps down, it's a lot more manageable, and we very, very gently pull back on the stick. And we are taking off. We're going to set the flaps to 15. We're going to gain a little bit more altitude, and we can start drawing back on how much power we're putting out so that we're not over-torquing the engines there. I'm not sure if over-torquing is the correct terminology. I also don't care. It's the torque indicator, too much torque. Once you have enough altitude, which we're fairly low right now, but once you have enough altitude, you can retract your flaps back to 0, And you are flying fine again. And remember, we are at 40% throttle and 60% RPMs. We are flying fine. We have a full load. You can see the water's full. The little green dots in the center console indicate how much water we scooped. I'm going to go ahead and open the bays. We're going to give some people here a free shower. And now that we're empty, we can go ahead and turn around and try that again. So last time we landed with no flaps at all. This time, let's try it with our flaps down in the same position that we used taking off, which should be 30 degrees down. We are once again kind of taking the throttle out of it. And generally, I tend to overspeed on these things. So the slower you come in, the less bounce you'll have, which really is kind of a bad thing to begin with. But with 2 down, you can see even hovering over the water itself is so much easier. It's so much more comfortable. You can see we hit the water, and we stay on the water here. And we go ahead and start filling here. And as soon as this one hits about halfway, there we go, halfway, I just hit the throttle. The flaps are still down, and we just start gently pulling back on this. Get the nose in the air. You can tell it's yelling at me a little bit, but we are out of the water. You can retract them to 15. And as we gain a little bit more altitude here, go ahead and pull back on the RPMs, pull back on the throttle. And you can tell this thing loves to yell at you. It's because your angle of attack pretty regularly kind of goes out of whack. You're putting a lot of stress on it, and you're making a lot of weird maneuvers. I wouldn't be too worried about it. Make sure you retract your flaps once you're stable. And we can just go ahead and head inland a little bit. And let's wash this farmer's cars for free. There we go. You will feel as soon as you drop all that water out, it'll immediately start pulling upwards. And so what I'll do this time is, you've seen no engine malfunction so far, so we're going to draw back on the RPMs and the power here. We're going to put down the flaps so that we can just land in the water. And what we're going to do this time is, after we fill up, we're just going to keep the power at 100. And you'll see kind of how quickly the engine problems will start. So, having a little bit of a bouncing. Should be. Oh, there we go. Flaps are down. We're just going to give it 100%. We're tilted a little bit to the left. And go ahead and speed, and speed our way out of the water. You can see we're up. We're just gonna put it up to 1. And flaps are back up. You can see how easy this is because we're under full power right now. So it's a lot easier, but what did we just see pop up? Engine malfunction. And we did that to ourselves because once you look over there, you can see that we are over-torquing the engines. We are asking them to work way too hard. And where I normally already fly at the limits of what it can reasonably take, keeping it just at a full 100 is not reasonable for this plane. Does it fly real fast if you do that? Yeah. But you will end up basically destroying the airplane. You can see in the bottom right, behind the throttle controls, the engine oil is also rising. If you keep just everything at 100, it will eventually just keep popping up engine malfunctions and you will lose power, and over time you will just end up crashing. Now that we've essentially ruined the engines, I can also show you. I can take a lot of the power out right now. One thing I can show you is that it's also much harder at this point to scoop and then take off again, even if we do everything properly. We emptied that out. Open those things up. Ooh, there's still a rainbow. Should be filling now, and even if we set the throttle correctly at this point and we try to take off, you can see it starts to bounce a lot, but it is going to struggle with taking off if it ever even does. You can try to do it gentle, you can try to do it hard, but it is not really going anywhere. It takes a lot of gentle effort to get it back up in the air. There we go, we're almost off, we're almost off, we're almost off. There we go. And during that time where we, basically beat the hell out of the plane, we also damaged our engines some more. So no matter what you do, once you've damaged your engines and you get those engine malfunctions, you're kind of shit out of luck. You've already damaged it to a point where you will no longer be able to reasonably take off and fly without constantly damaging it further. And so even when you bring it back in line now, it'll still keep popping up because it just doesn't know how to handle it anymore. So yeah, that is kind of how that works. So to recap, you want to land with your flaps 2 ticks down, which I believe is 30 degrees. You want to scoop. I start giving it more throttle to maintain speed at around a half fill. You should be between 90 and give or take 110 knots. That is kind of the speed you want to maintain. If you fall too low, you will eventually just go too slow to be able to take off with a full tank again. Keep those flaps down. Once you've taken off, take them back up to 15 degrees. Make sure you continue to gain altitude. Make sure your throttle and your RPMs are set correctly. And at that point, retract it. And that should work for you. Most of the firefighting missions require you to do approximately 7 drops. You may have to scoop more if you miss one of your drops, but if you want to make sure you can at least make those 7 drops, you are going to have to make sure that you treat those engines right and that you don't malfunction them. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any comments or anything to add, by all means, leave a comment. And if there's other things you'd like to see, just let me know. Thank you for watching, and hopefully this has been informative for you. If there's other things you'd like to learn about, let me know.